You know what time it is. Welcome back to Just Us Guys. Today we have Shaddolls. This is gonna be a really not weird one for me, but for a while I just never really liked Shaddolls, and then when we saw Shaddol Invoked, I wasn't really into their playstyle because they were like open a fusion or you kind of just lose. And now the deck is really cool. I didn't know this version was a good enough version to play, but I've been playing it, I've been testing it. It's actually really surprisingly good, surprisingly strong, and I'm excited to show you this. And there's actually 50 cards. You can see that. That is a thick boy. Not 40 cards, because in this version I don't think you can afford to fit into 40 cards, but still really cool option, and it's pure Shaddolls with traps. And let's get into it. I don't want to waste too much time. So starting off with the monsters here, we've got 3 copies of Reshadal Windy, 3 copies of Shaddol Squamata, and 3 copies of Hedgehog. So these are the only 3 IBs I play for the Shaddol monsters. Just explaining why they're all engine starters. That's pretty much it. You just want to open them, right? Because Hedgehog's searching you spells, Shaddol spells and traps, which are your fusions, as well as Shaddol monsters, which is good. Squamata, when he sends anything else, so he sends either of these, so essentially he's that. And also his flow effect comes up way more in this version of the deck than a lot of other versions. Which is when he's flipped, he pops any monster on the field, which is actually pretty good, and you can also do that quickly on your opponent's turn, as with a couple cards in our deck, which is pretty cool. So like him a lot. And then Reshadal Wendy, she's just getting you a special summon. Whether she's sent to the graveyard by a card effect or flipped, she's going to get you a special summon of a Shaddol from deck, which is really good. So that is it for our starters, our main engine starters there. Next up we have our 2 IBs, which are 2 copies of Shaddol Beast and 2 copies of Nail Shaddol Ariel. Beast is pretty standard at 2. I don't really love drawing him unless you draw a way to get him out of the hand, but we have tons of stuff we'll get to later that lets you send him from your hand as a card effect, so it's not that big a deal. And then Ariel. So Ariel, some people like to play her at 2 because they're okay, drawing her's not the best. And I agree, drawing her's definitely not the best, but if you get the ability to quick send her, or even not even quick send her, as just a way to rip resources from your opponent's grave, it could be huge, because when she's sent to grave by a card effect, she lets you rip 3 cards out of your opponent's graveyard and banish them. So whether it's Adamancipator or Eldritch, taking away Block Dragon, banish targets, or taking away, just Eldlixirs and Golden Lords in grave, this card's insanely strong versus those matchups. If you resolve 2 of this versus Eldritch, the duel is over. They have no way of beating you if you were able to grind them that far anyway. So very strong card. I think 2 is pretty standard, and at this point, just because of where the meta is, and just graveyards have been such a thing in the meta for so long now that it'll probably stay that way for a while too. And then we go to the 1-IBs, 1 copy of Dragon, 1 copy of Falco. Dragon is when he's sent by a card effect, you pop a spell or trap, and then when he's flipped, he gets you a Compulse, you can bounce a monster, which is actually pretty good. So again, kind of like Squamata, if you have the ability to quick flip him on your opponent's turn, it is a disruption, which is pretty cool, just like a Compulse. And then Falco. So the only reason I play Falco, and a lot of people don't play Falco, 1, he's a tuner. So how certain very specific Hulk plays, but still he's a tuner, as well as the fact that he can either, when he's flipped, he special summons a Shaddol from grave, and when he's sent, he special summons himself back to the field. So sometimes you have a play where you're just really trying to amass as much board presence as possible. So you may have already used Wendy that turn, and if you have another send, I want to send Falco because I want to send a guy that's going to guarantee me a body on board, as well as if he summons himself into face down, you'll have the chance to flip him up and get another extension out of it as well. So he allows you to link climb. It's not fast, but it's just a 1-IB, right? So it's really not that bad whatsoever. I'm definitely a fan of a 1-IB Falco. It's just another Shaddol monster to open, which is good. And then the only other non-Shaddol actual monster we play is Perform Age Trick Clown. He's an honorary Shaddol monster because when he's just sent to the graveyard, you pay 1,000, revive him. So I just wanted a light target, so when you use Shaddol Fusion, it gives you not only construct but also an extender as well. So that's really good, and drawing him is not that bad as long as you can find your way to send him generically, which is good. So there you go. And then the rest of the monsters are hand traps. You got to play hand traps because this deck specifically is even slower and worse than Shaddol Invoked at breaking boards. So you have to play hand traps. So we are on a full-on power suite here. We're on 3 Ash, 3 Gammas in the driver, 3 Ogre, and 3 Veiler. One thing you may note here is we're playing 10 lights here. The Veilers, the Ogres, and the Gammas in the driver, which is really cool. And that's one thing I like about Gammas. Not that Gamma's particularly amazing synergistically wise with this deck, but all it is it's light. So if it's dead, you have the ability to just fuse off with it. Send it as light material to get to your construct, which is totally fine. So we will take that for sure. And I know Ash doesn't really work with you know, attribute with everything else, but it's still kind of cool. It's still not even kind of cool. It's just like a good generic hand trap that works, like hits things that some of these don't, other than I guess sometimes Gamma there. So that's pretty much it for the rest of the monsters there. And I wanted 12 hand traps because this is a 50 card deck. That's the other thing I should say, is normally I've been in this like recent meta, I've been trying to stay around 10 hand traps in a 40 card deck. This is 50 card deck, so I'm going with 12. So just to kind of keep that ratio, you know, nice and plump there. And then we move to the spells. The spells are super standard. We've got 3 Shaddoll Fusion, 3 El Shaddoll Fusion, and 1 copy of Foolish Burial. I'm not playing Desires just because I am playing a Trap Trick package, as well as like if you banish the driver it can be annoying. I know it's a 50 card deck, but still I'm going to raise it to 52 just to play 52 or 53 just to play the Desires. I kind of decided not to, but yeah, you got to play this at 3. You should play this at 3, and then Foolish Burial is just way too versatile in the deck, so that's another 3, another one of, and 3 of if it's ever had 3, which it won't be, but you know, if you have it, play it. So that's pretty standard there. And then we move to the trap lineup, the most interesting part about this version of the deck, which is 3 copies of Trap Trick, 3 copies of Sinister Shadow Games, 3 copies of Paleozoic Dino-Miscus, 2 copies of Rush Shaddoll Incarnation, 2 copies of Lost Wind, and 1 copy of Shaddoll Schism, which I do not have yet. It's in the mail, but I didn't want to wait on this profile anymore. So yeah. Anyway, getting into this lineup and why everything's there. Trap Trick is there because normal. You have a ton of good targets, 4 good targets here. Let's see, Sinister Shadow Games and Rush Shaddoll Incarnation. I love these cards because they get you access to your engine, and I love that. I love decks that have normal trap cards that get them to their engine. That way Trap Trick can not only search you those, but if not, boom, Dino-Miscus, boom, Lost Wind, also powerful trap cards. So I like that, and also this card's really good because if you have like a set Squamata, you could like send an Ariel and then flip a Squamata. So then you pop a monster, and you just banish 3 cards from your opponent's grave. Against a lot of decks in the meta, it's actually pretty brutal to hit him with something like that, for sure. Dino-Miscus is really cool because it doesn't discard for cost, it discards as effect, which means it does trigger all Shaddoll monsters, which is really nice. Incarnation also very nice, just reborning something, getting you and then also getting you a flip later on, which is very important. Again, another card that allows you to like flip a Squamata or a dragon or something on your opponent's turn to get disruption there. Very cool. And then Lost Wind. The reason I'm playing Lost Wind is I just wanted some kind of negation to play here. Lost Wind's more powerful than Impermanence, just not as fast, but we already are playing, you know, 12 hand traps, and I didn't want one of those hand traps to be Imperm just because Imperm can't be used as material, so at least those have the synergy in terms of they can be material for fusion summon. But yeah, it's nice to have if you need negation. None of these negate, they're all like removal type effects, so this guy's nice to have for negation, and it comes back later. It can also be discard for something like Dino-Miscus. It can be discard off of Beast, off of Apkallone. Like, there's a lot of different things it can work with there. And then Schism. It's just a one-of because it's continuous. Once you get it, it stays on the field. It's very good, and you can add it back also. But that's why I'm always, with plays, I'm always, like, sending Squamata first. If I have just, like, a Foolish Burial or something, I'm just sending Squamata to then send, like, Wendy. Because it just gets us, like, that extra body in grave, so that when we do get to Schism later on, you won't run into the problem of like, oh man, I only had, you know, 3 Shaddolls in grave, so I banished 2 to summon the first fusion, and now I don't have enough Shaddolls for a second fusion, or something like that, you know what I mean? So, you know, just trying to play it smart there, as well as like you need monsters in grave to banish off of Incarnation to do its second effect as well. But yep, that's the trap lineup. Not getting too crazy there. Torrential Tribute's another one that's pretty cool because it wipes the board and your Shaddolls do float, but like, that's not amazing, like, in my opinion. I was like thinking about it, and I was like, yeah, it's not amazing, but because it like still rips apart your own like setup. And so to me, I'm kind of just sitting there going like, yes, you have a way to like not be punished as hard off of it, but it's not like you're kind of just doing your best to break even off of like the deck's own like way. So you're not actually going plus. It's just like a way to not lose to your own Torrential, I guess. And so it just felt kind of weird. Still a cool card and still trap trickable, so if you want to tech it, definitely think about it. I just like the lineup I have right now. When we move to the extra deck, we're going to start with the fusions, obviously. 3 Construct, just for the grind game. Definitely got to play 3. El Shaddoll Winda, I play 2 of it. You could arguably play 3, but that's an insane kind of grind game. And this deck can technically end up in that situation, so that's up to you if you want to play a 3rd. And then Apkallone, you could play a 2nd one of this as well. I'm on 1. I haven't had it come up for a 2nd one yet, but it's also very cool. Very good card. I love them all. They all have recursion. This one is a disruption, and this one's an insane floodgate. And then Construct's just tough to deal with. You can't out it by battle, and just gets you a ton of advantage. So that's pretty standard there. Moving on to the link section, we have one enemy gravity controller, not enemy controller, because you can link off your fusions when they're all sent to the graveyard. Generically, they'll just get you an add back. So just the gravity control, so you could summon them in the extra monster zone, make him just get the add back for a fusion or something. 1 copy of Shaddoll Construct, the normal one, just because when it comes up, it's actually really good. If you can just get this engraved, it actually it does wonders for you in a grind situation. Just means every turn you're triggering a Shaddoll while trading a Shaddoll for a Link 2, which is really, really good, in my opinion. It just gives you so much Link material. Cross Sheep, not really going to explain that. Like, you just make this, you do a fusion, you get a free special summon, boom, there's a Link 4. 1 copy of Cyframe Lord Lambda. There's another cool card. Like, we're just playing Gamma, and like sometimes if you can get to Link material, you just like make Gamma live again. If you never had a situation where you felt like you had to fuse it off, like, you just make this and eventually make the Gamma live, and that can just seal up a duel for you, because especially later in the game, people just can't play through a Gamma, right? There, 1 Halki Fibrax, just because, like I said, Falco is a tuner, and this deck is all spellcasters except for like Wendy and Ariel, I think. So this deck is just like you can make good use of Selene and then access code as well. So that's definitely one thing that this version is not as good at. When you play the invoked version, you definitely have easier access of getting to stuff like Purgatrio, you know what I mean? Big scary monsters like that can put pressure on your opponent offensively. This deck is not really all about that. This deck is slow, whittle them down, get in life points when you can, and eventually try and deal damage. But this lets you get to access code, which, as we all know, can just end games like real quick. And then IP, you just play IP with the Unicorn, just in case, like, if you couldn't find Disruption or you wanted more Disruption, and you just had like bodies on board, you could just go the IP route. As well as when she links off with a Shaddoll on field, it does trigger the Shaddoll because it is by a card effect, so that's pretty cool. And then for the last 2 cards, we play 1 Selene. She's really good because the whole deck, like I said, is Spellcaster, so it's not even like you have to revive the Veiler for like the cool Hulk play, or revive Falco because it's the tuner you might summon off of Halki Fibrax. But you can revive anything, literally any of them, which is pretty cool. You can even revive what is it, Apkallone? I think Apkallone is still a spellcaster, and Apkallone says generically on special summon negate a monster, not just on fusion summon, so that can also be really cool as like a quick effect with Selene. Other than that though, she's mainly just going to get you to access code. I don't have an access code. If you want to play Borrelsword, that's totally up to you, or something else. I don't care, that's up to you. I don't have it, but I would just recommend playing it. I think it's like the best option right now for a deck like this, to just be able to generically make a big monster that applies offensive pressure when it's time to push for game. So that's pretty much why he is there. That would play him first, even though I don't have one at the moment because he's expensive as donkey duty. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the deck profile, guys. It's a deck I really like more than I ever thought I would. When it came back into the mail, when we got the structure deck, I thought it was cool for people who like Shaddolls, but me personally, I was like, yeah, but I probably won't care too much. And look at me now. I didn't know the deck would play like this, didn't know the deck could play like this, and it's right in my wheelhouse of like a nice control-y style that does like sets up interesting interactions. Everything is sticky, you have a ton of recursion, just so much. You get so much value off a lot of cards, and so I'm a big fan. I'm definitely a bigger fan than I ever thought I would be. So as always, guys, you know the deal. Let me know thoughts down below on the deck profile. If you think there's anything I'm missing in this list that I should consider, throw it down below. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching. As always, subscribe to the channel if you have not yet and you want to see more deck profiles from your boy. Yeah. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.